Aloha Aina, Ano Ai, Velina Kako. Welcome to Free Hawaii News, brought to you by the Kawani Foundation, presenting Hawaiian perspectives on a broad range of topics and issues affecting the Hawaiian Islands, the Pacific, and the world. Your hosts for Free Hawaii News are Leon Kaulahau-Siu, musician, composer, diplomat, and political analyst, and Hinaleimoana Wong, Kumuhula, filmmaker, cultural and Hawaiian language preservationist, and community leader. And now, Free Hawaii News.
Aloha nui mai a katoa pauloa e tō Hawaii nei pai aina puni. Mahalo anui a oto no to oto tipa ana mai e mātou I te iahiahi nei. O wauno o Hinaleimoana, Wong kalu.
Aloha, and my name is Leon Kaulahau-Siu, and we are pleased to welcome you here to this episode of Free Hawaii News.
Many of us remember almost 50 years ago when the face-off occurred between developers and Kanaka residents of Waiahole and Waikane valleys on Oahu. Kanaka families were being evicted to make way for development. Residents protested while fighting rent increases and evictions in the courts. The most well-known anti-eviction protest, Waiahole Waikane, happened on January 4th, 1977, when Waiahole residents blocked the road to prevent state sheriffs from serving eviction notices to Kanaka Ohana, who had lived there for many years.
The struggle for land rights continued for years in the courts as kalo farmers in the valley sued for rights to the water that was being diverted away to the pineapple and sugar plantations of central Oahu. In the year 2000, the Hawaii Supreme Court finally ruled that the water should remain in the valley. However, only a fraction of the water was returned. Today, 45 years later, the state of Hawaii is again trying to raise rents in the valley, and the threats of eviction are becoming real.
To learn more, we go now to Waiahole Valley, where farmer and longtime resident and owner of the famous Waiahole Poi Factory, Calvin Ho, is standing by. Aloha, Calvin.
Aloha, Leon. Aloha, Hina.
Can you explain to us what's going on in Waiahole Valley and why residents there feel so threatened right now?
We are communicating with the state, and they are telling us that they are going to raise the rents. And the rents that they have given us are pretty high. And so that we are afraid that some of the residents will not be able to afford the rents.
Why is the state government trying to increase rents knowing that many of the valley's residents cannot afford the increase?
We have heard that they are increasing rents because it's costing the state too much money to operate this the system that they have in place.
Who exactly lives in Waiahole Valley, and what do they do? And are there more than farmers there?
The residents of the valley are a mixture of lots of different people. There are land owners, like my family has been in this valley for hundreds of years.
Isn't this the same thing that happened in 1977, which resulted in a huge protest, blockades, and facing down state police?
It could go to that situation. And it's important for us to band together just like in the 70s. And we are working on that. We are pa'akiki. We're stubborn. You tell us we gotta go, we tell you we ain't going. You go. Because, you know, we've been here for hundreds of years, and you come in and you wanna kick us out, we're not gonna let you do that. This valley is known for kalopa, the hard taro. We are hard like that taro, we're stubborn. And that's important. When it comes time for the state to want to kick us out, we're going to band together and we're going to fight this. It doesn't have to come to that. Can we sit down? Can we talk story as equals and come to an agreement, something that the state wants and something that the people of this valley want? I think that's possible. And I think that would be fantastic. That's how places should be. You know, the people of Waiahole, we have a lot of farmers here. And we need taro. We need to feed ourselves. We can. We have the ability to feed ourselves. We just have to be able to have a place, the land, the aina, the definition of aina. Ai means to eat. Aina means that which feeds you. That is the land of Waiahole. We can feed ourselves and we can have the healthiest food in the world. And besides growing all this food, if we have sufficient water that flows to the ocean, so that the ocean can also provide us with the protein in the form of fish, that's how we should be living. And that's definitely possible, and that's where we're going.
What would Waiahole Valley residents like to see happen to settle this issue?
We need to sit down with the state, and the state can present what they need, and the people of the valley will present what they need, and we will work it out to the point that's satisfactory to both sides. The thing that can be a problem is if the state decides they have to move quickly. And this kind of negotiating takes time. We have time. State has time. We have time. Let's work something good, because the things that the Waiahole people can do can be of great benefit to all the people of these islands. In fact, all the people of the whole world and the universe too. My son wrote a chant. Iwi o ku iwi. Koko o ku koko. Pilikamo. A maulo. Iwi o ku iwi. Bones of my bones. Koko o ku koko. Blood of my blood. Pilikamo. Our stories are the same. A maulo. Forever. That is the unity of the world and the universe. That's how we have to live.
How can others who don't live in Waiahole Valley help support you?
Come learn about us. And we will come out there and teach you too. When we were in that fight in the 70s, we went to Honolulu. We went to Kapiolanipa and we educated people. And we went to the legislature, we went to the governor's office, we told people about what we were doing, and now, like what you and I are doing right now, we're educating people. Take a look at what we are doing, and might you learn from the things that we do here. The Waiahole is such a beautiful place. I have the Waiahole Poi Factory, which we have had since the early 70s. My favorite place was to sit on the north end of the Poi Factory and eat there because I could see the whole coastline, and a beautiful coastline that we refuse to let the landowners build all of this housing. And it's a beautiful view. If we go to the south and we keep going, we're going to get to Waikiki. Maybe some people like Waikiki. I like the waves, I like surfing there. But those high rises, that's not how we want to live. And we don't have to live that way. This is an alternative. And there's more land like this, but where is the city going in its planning for our islands? We need to look at that and decide. We have the choice of Waikiki, or we have the choice of Waiahole. To me, that's an easy choice. We have great people here. We still have beautiful people in the valley. I guess I wanted to say that and thank all the people and anyone who takes the time to listen to what we're saying and gives us an opportunity to share what we're doing and why. Thank you.
No laila, mahalo anu ia oe Calvin, mahalo no ka hoʻoikaika, mahalo no ka hoʻokupaʻa, mahalo anui ke aloha aina. Aloha. Last month here on Free Hawaii News, we reported on the alarming rise in murdered and missing Hawaiian women and girls. A new report, Holoia Nalo Wahine Oiwi, confirms that Kanaka Maoli women and girls experience violence and abduction at much higher rates than other women and girls in Hawaii. So what steps can be taken by Kanaka women and girls in Hawaii to protect themselves so they don't become the next victim? To find out, we go now to Lua instructor Kumu Michelle Manu. Michelle Manu is part of a long tradition of wahine trained in the self-defense arts of Lua. She is currently the only female Lua instructor in the world, and she holds the rank of Alihikaua. She is also a 10th degree black belt, a Hollywood stunt actress, and she holds a law degree from Harvard Business School. Aloha kumu Lua, Michelle Manu. Welcome to Free Hawaii News.
Aloha, Leon. Aloha, Hina. Thank you for having me today. Mahalo.
Kumu Manu, could you please briefly explain to our viewers what Lua is and how it came to be in our Hawaiian culture?
Lua, in ancient or original Maoli times, was named, had several titles, most commonly Kui'alua. Like its name, there are also several origin stories of how Kui'alua birthed and came to Hawaii. It was originally empty-handed, and as the culture evolved, so did the warrior art. Today, some of us refer to Kui'alua as Lua. And so to speak a little bit more about its evolution, Lua was banned by our queen, Ka'ahumanu, around 1823. And while those in town continued to practice Kui'alua, concealing it within the hula dance, those on the outskirts of town freely practiced, but secretly, quietly, so as they wouldn't come into an infraction or violation of this new ban. Some would say that it was banned because it offended the visitors, because it was too brutal. But a couple years after the public ban of Lua, of course, the hula was also banned from public display. While there was a public declaration to reinstate hula by our king, Kalakaua, about 50 years later, there was really never any declaration to reinstate Lua into public display or practice. So 90 years later, there was a revival in about the 1960s in Hawaii itself, primarily by one Lua lineage. But at the same time, there were also two gentlemen, two Kanaka, that traveled to the continent and brought the Lua there. And so one of these men, Alohe Lua, Solomon Kaivalu, my late teacher, was the man who was consistently evolving his family lineage from the original teachings of his mother, his father, and his great-grandfather up until his passing about 3 years ago. So, some kumu or alohe evolve what they've learned today, and some only teach what they've been taught. Neither one is wrong or right. It's just that every school or palua determines how they wish to proceed and what and how they wish to teach what they're teaching.
Can you tell us about teaching Lua for self-protection to wahine who are in high-risk environments?
Yes, but first I would like to discuss some of the real-time statistics prepared by the National Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Two-Spirit Awareness, which was published by OHA recently. So I'm going to read these to you because they're important. More than a quarter of missing girls in Hawaii are Native American. Hawaii has the 8th highest rate of missing persons per capita in the nation at 1.7 missing people per 1,000 residents. The average profile of a missing child is 15 and female, Native Hawaiian, missing from Oahu. The majority, which is 46% of sex trafficking cases, are Kanaka Maoli girls trafficked into Waikiki, Oahu. In 2021, the Missing Child Center Hawaii assisted law enforcement with 376 recoveries of missing children. These cases are only 19% of the estimated 2,000 cases of missing children in Hawaii every year. On Hawaii Island, Kanaka Maoli children ages 15 to 17 represent the highest number of missing children's cases, with the most children reported missing in the area code of 96720 Hilo. From 2018 to 2021, there were 182 cases of missing Kanaka Maoli girls on Hawaii Island. This is higher than any other racial group. And last one here, 57% of participants that served through the Manaola Olana program at Child and Family Services are Native Hawaiian females who have experienced human trafficking. So teaching women and girls of all ages has its challenges. For some reason, we have this programming that it won't happen to us, that we're not important enough to take the time out to learn how to defend ourselves, and that someone will save us. So, many of the wahine that I get to teach, I'm honored to teach, are of all ethnicities. They're in all locations and of all ages. And I have the honor of spending time with these women who have already experienced some sort of unwanted advancement, some quite violent, honestly. And as a kumu and as a fellow survivor, it is imperative that I create a safe space for all wahine to honor their triggers, during their training, and to encourage their courage to move past these triggers while they're in the heart of the emotion. So very important to move past that and bringing them back into the moment, letting them know that they're safe and that they can survive. So this is very powerful training. And the Wahine learned that it isn't over until it's over, and that they learn awareness, how to control their emotions, set their intention to be a formidable opponent, to follow their inner woman and their uhane, their spirit, their na'au, right, their gut, and their kupuna. And so they learn the tools and move in these movements that give them confidence against anyone and any weapon, that they may survive, but they will get hurt in the process. I always say that we cannot and we will not, if we believe we won't survive a violent event without violence, then we are already dead. So this is really important to understand, that we may feel something warm. It may be our blood, it may be our opponent's blood, but we must get home safe, even if we have to drag ourselves. And I know that sounds gruesome, but sometimes it gets to this point. And before anything happens, we need to resolve in our mindset that we're going to fight until our last breath.
How is Lua different from other martial arts?
For some, Lua is just a martial art. Like hula, we perpetuate that which was. While we wholly honor our foremothers and forefathers, we too, like they did, must evolve in today's world and the very real challenges that are presented to us in today's time. So for me, Lua is not just a martial art. It's the cultural practice from the beginning of our people, of our warriors. And without the warrior culture, there would be no culture. The warriors didn't just wake up, exit the hale, and do martial arts techniques all day. They were well-rounded. They were trained in war strategy and conditioning, lua lomi, the warrior massage, navigation, architecture, medicine, fishing, and much more. So this is how Lua is different from other martial arts. We are the equivalent of what I would say the Spartans were to Greece, or that the samurai were to Japan. We emulate nature elements and animal movements. Our first and only religion was that of the metaphysical, the unseen and the seen, connected, working together. I believe we've lost that today. Today in the martial world, there's sport martial, there's competitive martial, there's traditional martial, there's self-defense, and then there's military or tactical martial. In my opinion, our native art falls in the last three categories. While it's traditional, it's also for self-defense, and it's also combative. So when you think of our warriors on the wa'a, right, the canoes moving down that chaotic battlefield, they were always in movement. I think this is how another way that Lua is different.
What role has colonialism played in Hawaii regarding causing Hawaiian women to feel vulnerable?
There is so much to say about this deep question. When the missionaries came, they brought their role of the wahine with them, which to me was a diminished role. Our culture has suffered so much and continues to suffer from the displacement of our inherent indigenous roles. That's kane as well, not just wahine. These roles continue to be reinforced daily, even in the public school system. And because of this, I believe that generational trauma continues in real time.
How can Lua help a wahine who is raising daughters and they all live in a high-risk area?
To learn the traditional Lua of our kupuna has always evolved into real-life self-defense for today. This is what we do. If you don't, then it's antiquated, right? We think of skill sets, and while our kupuna were ingenious and innovative, they were remarkable. I mean, they would be using Zoom like, we do today for meetings. They would have adjusted. Our Lua needs to be adjusted today too, but this is wholly my opinion. Learning the biomechanics and conditioning to have the grounding, agility, flexibility, timing, and mana to evade or counter against a push, a hair pull, a hair grab, wrist or wrist grabs, shirt grab, front strangulation, rear strangulation, against a hammer, a crowbar, a bat, and even a zip tie escape. These things need to be learned. While we didn't have zip ties in ancient times, women were used as special forces. And so we had to be even more ingenious than our Kane counterparts. So for our beautiful keiki, learning how to cover and maneuver on the ground, the pull of a backpack from behind, the hair being pulled, and more. The root itself, to learn these, to connect us back to these animal elements and these nature movements, and they're very important. We do them in hula. They're freely practiced in hula, but for some reason they're not readily available in the study of lua. So this training, this mindset is perishable. We must be exposed to these principles. We must move in them for it to change our own mana, to be consistent and increase our chances of success, whether we're defending ourselves, our loved ones, or even our animals.
Can learning lua help wahine change how they view themselves as well as their own ability to feel safe?
Specifically because of the ban of the lua and forcing it to go underground, our people really only have the option of learning other martial arts that are not indigenous to our land, such as BJJ and FMA. While they're really great arts to help us possibly protect ourselves against an altercation, an attack, or an abduction, where is our lua? Where is our only native art to our people and our aina in helping us protect ourselves and those we love? So to move in lua, it's energetic. As a wahine, kane, we move in lua and we somehow, in my opinion, are made whole. The questions of why we've been made a certain way, ways in which we don't conform in today's society, and to connect back to ourselves, our aina, and our people, our kupuna, becomes self-evident when we start to permeate this energy in our essence. We change everything. Ourselves, our lives, the people in our lives, and we begin to restore. And I think that this is how all of us begin to find our voices, and we become less vulnerable in all aspects of our life. We start to find self-confidence in the way and trust our inner woman, inner man, and our abilities that we're constantly training in. So this is where we stand in huku, I would say, which means to reflect, what is shown to us. If someone has ill intent, then we should be allowed to show that back in protection, instead of just what we've learned, what aloha is meant to be, and that's turn the other cheek. I think women specifically have been told that, don't make a scene, you're over exaggerating, you're paranoid. It wasn't meant like that. And, if we feel threatened, if someone touches us, we should be able to have the ability and feel confident in being able to touch someone back. And this is how our foremothers operated. And this is how our kane expected us to operate while they were away at war. We were the ones guarding the land and our loved ones and the livestock. So this is how we've changed in today's world.
Can lua help heal generational trauma?
I wholeheartedly believe so. Especially in my own personal life. It continues to heal me today, and I am a grandmother. So there is no end to the healing that we can experience in the deeper layers, and even in our DNA that we experience daily in a subconscious way, which I call programming. So, it brings us lua specifically. Hula is wonderful, weaving is wonderful, fishing, navigating, you name it. It's wonderful. But lua specifically, because it has that duality of the feminine and the masculine, I really believe it calls us into balance, connection with ourselves, with our kupuna, and, with our aina.
Can any wahine learn lua regardless of age or background?
I can't speak for any other pālua or lua school, but for any wahine or kane who wish to commit to their studies under my watchful kuleana, which is responsibility, There really is no age limit or background. There is, however, an application process. I will not teach lua to martial taste testers or martial consumers or collectors. The information I am a keeper of is for serious haumana only. And while I teach globally to show the depth of and the proficiency of this art and of our people, the inner kauna of the lua is really reserved for those who have great ano or integrity and will not misuse the lua if they don't have control over their emotions. This is why in my system, the metaphysical is one of the major pillars of study, because this helps us to learn more about ourselves, to master our emotions, to honor the pause, and to not react in emotion, because the information that we learn about, the information we become, and the movements that we end up mastering are devastating. And I would never want one of my haumana to misuse that in any way.
Can anyone attend your workshops?
Anyone can attend my workshops, but my regular classes, however, are closed and private. Once someone is accepted as a student, there is a kapu o kuleana, and that means each haumana must follow certain rules, or they will be dismissed from study. But those that get to attend weekend workshops, or a seminar here and there, they get to see the devastation of the biomechanics of how our ancestors moved and how we've evolved it today. But they don't actually learn the deeper aspects of the lua.
How can they contact you to attend a workshop?
We have an all wahine pa lua in Kalawahine. This is the first time there's been an all wahine pa in over 200 years. And so that they study regularly. There's also workshops on the continent at UCLA. I do a quarterly workshop there, which is exciting too, because it was the first university to offer lua on a regular basis. I also began this academic school year teaching at Honolulu Community College. So there's frequent workshops there. And there will be regular, very exciting again, classes at the Papakolea Community Center there on Oahu. So maybe every other week. That's still in process, but it's very exciting. So you can also add family lua days as well as summer camps for the keiki. And also, I'm hoping next year, I can't join this year, but next year, I hope to make it for spring break. So getting the keiki involved and exposed to this information and these movements as soon as possible. And, tying the hula into the lua, very important. And I talk about this all the time. I take a moment right now that we have mana, right? This energy. And we've got on this end the hula, which is, our mo'olelo, right? To tell the stories, verbal transmission, to emulate animal movements, right? And nature elements, no contact. Then you come into the center, and then there's Lualomi here, which, there's a lot of Lomi practitioners, but the Lualomi or Lomi Koa was the warrior massage for before, during, and after a battle if warriors got injured. So they get right back on their feet and get back on the battlefield. And sometimes the lualomi is much more, painful than the actual stinger or injury that the koa experienced on the battlefield. Then you bring it all the way over to the opposite end of the spectrum, and this is full contact. This is where lua resides, and this is where the intent is to take your opponent out. And it's not to be nice, it's not to show aloha. If someone's coming again with that huku, you will do everything that you can to protect yourself and move down that battlefield. So I really believe in teaching lua, I must address all three of these. And I think this balance is so essential. And I'm looking forward to bringing that to Papakolea Community College very soon.
No laila mahalo anui ia oe e kumumanu, mahalo anui no ke ka'ana I kou ike me kou na'awao I kanui wahine e kipa kuno ia oe. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. Here at Free Hawaii News, we always look forward to the latest updates from the United Nations. And here to tell us more is, again, Leon. Mahalo, Leon.
Mahalo, Hina. Yes, we've actually had a couple of breakthroughs at the United Nations. There are two major developments. One, The doors are opening for us, the Hawaiian Kingdom and the Hawaiian Nation, to begin the process to join the Pacific Islands Forum, the 50-year-old organization of 17 Pacific Island nations. I meet with their permanent representatives at the UN in New York a couple times a year to update them on our progress. Several of the ambassadors recently encouraged me to attend the Pacific Islands Forum Leaders Meeting in Suva. And so, as a result, we are beginning the process to become enrolled with the Pacific Islands Forum. The second item that we're making a breakthrough is that we are reorganizing the Decolonization Alliance as a subcommittee of the Conference of Non-Governing Organizations, or for short, CONGO. This is an organization of over 600 NGOs with consultative relationship with the United Nations. This means decolonization reports, petitions, complaints, etc. that we generate through this subcommittee will be taken much more seriously and carry more clout with the UN bodies. I'm in the process of drafting the concept notes for the subcommittee. It should be approved in March and we should be up and running in April. Now, both of these developments, one, the UN member states, the other with the NGOs, will put Hawaii in a strong position to get support to submit a General Assembly resolution for a review of the 1959 General Assembly Resolution 1469, and others like West Papua, Tahiti, etc., who are seeking liberation for their nations. Now, some background on the Pacific Islands Forum. 10 years ago, the late Tony DeBroom, the Foreign Minister of the Marshall Islands, suggested I start attending the Pacific Islands Forum and other meetings of regional organizations to show face for the purpose of informing them of our situation, gaining support, and eventually joining them. I successfully attended the Pacific Islands Forum, the Melanesian Spearhead Group, and the Pacific Islands Development Forum. At the time, only states were allowed to be members of those organizations, but in 2017, French Polynesia and New Caledonia, both non-states, were accepted as full members of the Pacific Islands Forum. Since then, I began communicating with the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, informing them of our intention to become a member of the Pacific Islands Forum. Now, why should Hawaii be in the Pacific Islands Forum? First of all, the Hawaiian Kingdom is a Pacific Island nation that was recognized officially as a sovereign state by the major European powers since 1843. This formal recognition occurred at a time when most of the Pacific Islands were being subjected and colonized by those same European powers. In 2023, the picture is flipped. Most of the Pacific Islands are free, but Hawaii is captive. The supreme irony is that under the aegis of the United Nations, nearly all of the Pacific Island nations became decolonized, independent, or autonomous, but Hawaii is still being held captive by the United States, and it's being aided and abetted by the United Nations. The Hawaiian Kingdom, a nation in restoration, is working to correct that situation. One of the worst outcomes of the 130-year U.S. occupation of our nation has been alienation from the rest of our Pacific Island relatives. This is particularly sad since prior to the Americans' intervention, Hawaii had always maintained friendly relations with other Pacific Islands. Our separation from the Pacific community excludes Hawaii from representing our own interests in the international matters. Instead, Hawaii is represented by the United States and its own interests emanating from Washington, D.C., 5,000 miles away from our shores. As the Free Hawaii movement draws closer to achieving the reinstatement of Hawaii as a sovereign independent nation, we wish to begin the process now to rejoin the rest of our Pacific Islands family. We believe an independent Hawaii rooted in the cultural ways of our ancestors and working knowledge of today's global socio-economic systems, has much to contribute to the mutual endeavors for the betterment of the Pacific and the planet.
No leila mahalo anu yaoi Leon for that update. We look forward to your next updates. I hope that our community finds it as interesting as I do. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
There has been another recent diesel fuel spill at a U.S. military installation. This time at the U.S. Space Force's Daniel K. Inouye Maui Space Surveillance Complex near the summit of Haleakala on Maui. The diesel spill has led to protests by Kanaka and other local activists and is the most recent of a string of U.S. military chemical contaminations here in Hawaii. The U.S. military said about 700 gallons of diesel was spilled on Haleakala, which is sacred aina to Kanaka. With more details, we go now to Maui, where Trinette Furtado is standing by. Aloha aina Trinette.
Aloha mai, Leon and Kumuhina. I'm so grateful and happy to be with you here today on Free Hawaii News.
So Trinette, please tell us, what are the latest updates regarding this fuel contamination on Haleakala?
There's a work plan that they're mulling over in conjunction with our State Department of Health, with the EPA. As they've said in a press conference in February, they're looking at not just fulfilling the guidelines, the standard industry guidelines, but going above and beyond, to quote the speaker at that particular public meeting. Now, that's a problem because we are already going to be 25 to 30 days after the spill has occurred with just a tarp over the spill area.
How did this spill happen?
The spill occurred because of a lightning strike that caused this pump in the main generator to be stuck in the on position, and that allowed the tank to overflow with the diesel fuel that is supposedly only kept up there to run the emergency generators in case of electrical failure. There is a HECO substation up there, but apparently the power lines were down, they could not get electricity, and so the pump came on. We were in a stormy time at that time towards the end of January, and the temperatures up there, were much colder than they normally are, and now wind chill factor, the rain, these are some of the excuses that we were given for why this failure and the spill happened in the first place.
Can the spill be cleaned up, or are these forever chemicals?
They don't even know that. They don't know the extent of it, and it's had an opportunity to seep into the ground deeper and possibly spread further than the site in these 25 to 30 plus days that we've been waiting for any kind of remediation. And so can it be completely cleaned up? We won't know for a while. They will have to take samples of what kinds of chemicals are in the soil. And I've heard some words that they plan on taking that clean soil as much as they can and putting it back on Haleakala, which in itself presents a whole lot of problems. So will we be dealing with these chemicals for longer than this cleanup, for beyond this year? I absolutely believe so.
Should we trust the U.S. military to be transparent and tell the truth here?
My initial reaction is no. Transparency here, can be defined and redefined in many ways, and aspects of that taken and twisted, as we have seen with the ongoing heva at Pohakuloa and what's going on with the Red Hill water issue. So do I believe that they will be completely transparent as to what's going on atop Haleakala? No, I'm not confident in that. I'm hopeful, but as we've seen, there are many things that can be considered classified, and where that line is and what they consider transparent can be two drastically different things.
Should the U.S. military even be on Haleakala?
ʻaʻole, absolutely not. As I have heard from press conferences that they've held, the belief here is that they are being given an opportunity to be in a sacred space. They understand that this place is a sacred place, but insist on remaining there. If you know that a place is sacred, you do not pop tent make house. You do not treat it as you do at putting, vessels that carry diesel fuel up there. And if you even dare to be in a sacred space, you make sure to have various fail-safes so that nothing can happen. The military has millions and millions of dollars at its disposal and asks the federal government for more whenever they need it. And we can see that millions and millions of dollars were spent on the Red Hill case. So should they be up there? Absolutely not. The claim that they want to work with cultural practitioners, that they want to work with the rest of us to make sure that, they win our trust back, they win our confidence back. Those are terms that you use when you believe that you belong there. And I don't believe they belong there. I have always and ever believed we go up there to have connection to Akua, to speak to Akua and our ancestors. We don't stay up there. We come back down when we get the mana'o, when we get that ike, and we rever them. How can you rever a place when you continue to build on it and then insist that you're being given the opportunity? You didn't get the opportunity, you stole it. You took it from us. And so, do you belong up there? No, you do not. That's my simple and my very forcefully, I feel it in my na'au. You don't belong up there. And no amount of niceties, no amount of we're going to work together, none of those things erase the fact that you simply do not belong up there.
What should be done to ensure that this never happens again?
Get off the mauna. Now, it seems laughable and simple enough for others, and they, just get off the mauna, but it's true. They could just simply be off the mauna. This is how we can ensure that spills or anything like this never happens again. No amount of, I promise, I'm sorry, I'll do better, will ever negate, it can never assure me. I don't think it can ever assure anyone that considers Haleakala a vahipana, that nothing will happen in the future. If it is a sacred space to you, it is a sacred space. No one belongs there doing business for the military, for an other country that is illegally and belligerently occupying this one. No one would question the idea of a sacred place in any culture, anywhere around the world. People understand the idea, the connection, the feeling of sacred place, because we are a part of that sacred place. And if you understand that, then there's no amount of manini, no talking around, no red herring, no other kinds of arguments that can be made for continuing to stay there. US military, your absence is absolutely what would ensure that nothing like this ever happens again.
No leila mahalo anui ya oi Trinette, mahalo nui no ko ho'okupa'a, mahalo anui no ko aloha aina. Mahalo.
This is a little talk about special holidays. For some reason, we think anniversaries occurring in multiples of 5s and 10s are extra special. This year, 2023, is an unusual year of those specially numbered anniversaries, good and bad, in our beloved Hawaiian Islands. 2023 is the 245th year of the arrival of Captain Cook, the 215th birthday of Timoteo Ha'alilio, our envoy to Europe, who secured the recognition of the Hawaiian Kingdom as a sovereign state. It's the 210th birthday of Kauikeaouli, Kamehameha III, the most effective monarch in transforming the Hawaiian Kingdom into a literate, respected, progressive, independent, neutral nation. It is the 185th birthday of Queen Liliuokalani, the great mo'i who exemplified aloha in the face of betrayal and treachery and great care for her people.
We just heard Leon speak about Hawaiian dates and what's important. And when it comes to what's important and how we feel about certain things, something as simple as Hawaiian dates, observing Hawaiian holidays and giving that preference and giving that the emphasis and the focus of where we give our time to versus honoring and upholding American holidays. For many of us who will look at things like this, sometimes it's really hard. I know that in my generation, there's a fair amount of folks that might say, oh, we need to honor and observe the American holidays. And there's a whole lot of us who will also say that it's far more important for us to place emphasis on Hawaiian holidays. Another example is when we talk about politics and when we have candidates or people that are nominated or put to certain positions, and then we in the Hawaiian community, we take a hold of these things and we express our sentiments. The real challenge for us, for those of us here in the Pai'aina, is to remember that it's okay to disagree and it's okay to have intelligent, educated, and well thought out discourse, because it is through this discourse that we are able to really process and think. It's important for us to analyze. It's critical for us to have that kind of mind that can take apart things and really think things through. And most important of all is that we have aloha for one another. For if we step away from our daily lives, we will see that we are a minor minority in our own homeland. So to all of you, my fellow Kanaka out there, and of course, to all of our other Kama'aina friends, as well as our Malihini friends, from wherever you may come from. In the Hawaiian community, just like any other, and I'm sure that we could say that our American friends don't always get along, don't always see eye to eye. All we have to do is look within the American bipartisan politics. Republicans and Democrats don't see eye to eye and they don't get along. So for us in Hawaii, and for those of us who aloha aina, we may all have our differences of opinion. We may have our different sentiments and our thoughts, and we should all be able to strive to a place where we can say what we feel, support what we will, endorse what we wish. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we have aloha that remains for one another, even when we don't agree on the topic or don't agree on the issue. It's critical because there are far greater numbers of the everyone else's out there that would either outvote us or outnumber us or just even outthink us. And I leave that with all of you folks. Think about it. A'ole pilikia, we don't always have to agree, but we should always do our best to have aloha, courtesy, respect, and diplomacy for all. No laila e kia naina a oko e kipa mai nei, that is Kumuhina's mana'o for you. Mahalo.
Mahalo Kumuhina for this wonderful and insightful sharing of what you just shared with us. It is very important that we maintain aloha, respect, and all of these things, because if we can't do that, then poho, all the work, the good work we may do, or the opinions we may have, is wasted because of a lack of aloha.
Absolutely.
So, mahalo nui.
Absolutely. Mahalo nui. It's so important for us to remember that Hawaii is only so big, and we are so few in number for us who are Kanaka. Mm-hmm. And if at the end of the day, everybody, no matter what side they stand on an issue or a topic, if at the end of the day we didn't have aloha, then what is it that we're doing what we do? What are we doing it for? And who will benefit if we have no aloha for the people that we claim to be our lahui?
Mahalo nui for joining us on Free Hawaii News. We have enjoyed having you here, and we've also enjoyed having the various guests who shared their mana'o about things that are important to us here in Hawaii. My name is Leon Kaulahausiu.
A o wau no te ia o Hinaleimoana, Wong Kalu. Mahalo nui a oto no te oto tipa ana mai. A hui hou kātou. Aloha.
We hope you enjoyed this month's episode of Free Hawaii News. Mahalo for watching. There's a new show every month, so this program will air several more times this month. You can view it anytime on Olelo's on-demand site or on YouTube. See you next time. A hui ho, aloha aina.
Free Hawaii Broadcasting Network.